and I believe we are all present. So I will call to order the meeting of the North Dakota Ethics Commission this Wednesday morning, January 28th, 2026. Good morning, everyone, and welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning. First order on the agenda is to look at the agenda, and is there any other changes or additions from anyone?
Cindy, I have, if I could add, we missed, or we were able to get through 2 more complaints since we did the agenda. So if we could add complaint numbers 25083 and 25084 to the agenda.
Okay. So noted. Anything else? Oh, excuse me. All right. Next order of business is the approval of the meeting minutes for December 17th, which was a regular meeting.
I'll move the approval.
Have a motion
Second, this is Jared.
and a second. Questions or discussion? I have a couple. Rebecca, on the top of the minutes on call to order, in the last sentence about Commissioner Goodman joined later. Should there be an approximate time? Is that, or is just saying join later sufficient?
Cindy, we'll go in and put the approximate time.
Yeah, I thought I'm pretty sure I wrote it down, but I couldn't find my notes because I don't think it was, like whatever. It wasn't very long. All right, and then my other question on page 4, and it's item D. I think the last sentence is needs to be flipped, where it says ED Executive Director Binstock requested Chair Lindquist to draft the response with support from staff.
Yeah.
Wasn't it supposed to be the commission and/or the chair asked the executive director to draft the response? And then under item E, Executive Director Binstock, at the last sentence, is requesting more time be given to General Counsel Carpenter to review and analyze the opinion. Shouldn't there be a statement that we concurred with that? To me, it's just like, it's kind of just left there.
Cindy, I think we should change it just to say that the commission granted,
Okay, there you go.
approved. Let me say it so it's very clear for the record what it'll be. So the commission approved more time be given to General Counsel Carpenter to review and analyze the opinion.
Yeah. Others, are you okay with my questions and my comments?
Yes.
I just think it needs to be better clarified relative to our action or our discussion. And I think that was it.
I will amend my motion to move that the minutes from last month's December meeting be approved as amended.
I will second the amended motion.
All right. Any other questions or comments? All right, Addie, would you call the roll, please, for the motion?
Commissioner Hubright. Commissioner Sharp.
Aye.
Commissioner Western. Aye.
Vice Chair Goodman,
Aye.
Chair Lindquist,
Aye. All right, moving on to the next item on the agenda. Executive Director's Report.
Addie, you want to pull up the budget? Good morning, Commissioners. I'm going to have Addie pull up the budget update for December here. So give us just a minute. And I'm going to hand it over to Addie to give an overview. And then there's one thing that we'll need to talk about once we go through the overview.
So this is through the end of December 2025 budget update for the 25-27 biennium. Our current appropriations is sitting at $1,378,956, which includes the intern funding from OMB. Expenditures in December totaled $50,540, bringing our total expenditures for the biennium to $286,196, leaving a remaining budget of $1,092,760 for the biennium. And then our projected expenditures through the end of the biennium is $1,090,502, leaving us with an estimated ending balance of $2,258. And that will continue to fluctuate as we move through the biennium. Some things to note, I did add an area to track our expenses from outside counsel in the federal case, which you can see down below. And in next month's budget update, it'll reflect some refunding that we received from Kogel for some of the cancellations that we had. And that's what I have.
Okay, thanks, Addie. So you'll notice that at the bottom of the budget update, you'll see this federal case outside counsel budget. I want to be very clear that this is not money that is appropriated to the commission. This is the money that the commission has requested be pulled from the AG's litigation fund in order to pay the commission's outside counsel in the federal matter that's currently pending. And so that money is not included up above in our appropriation, but we do still need to track that, because if we go beyond the 25,000 in that federal litigation, that money will then start pulling from our professional fees and services. So I do want us to track that closely. We are not paying those bills. How we have well established that process now that we've been through it. Is there any questions on that particular budget line item at this time?
Could you explain how does it work then, I guess, the process? The money stays at the AG's office and we submit the bill or an invoice?
That is exactly correct. There was some question about risk management, and we worked through those. I worked through those with TOG after the last meeting. And so this is money that is coming straight from the AG litigation pool that the commission had requested that they cover. And so what we do is when we receive the bill for the work that has been done, that is then turned around and submitted to the AG's office, and then they issue the payee, or they go through the process in that instance. And I think it worked just fine.
Okay.
So So they are holding on to that money. That money is not in any of our accounts.
Okay. And have you submitted some billing so far?
Yes, we submitted the 6,810, Cindy,
Oh, okay.
that we got for December.
Okay, okay. Got it. All right, any other commissioners' questions?
And I want to briefly talk about the professional fees and services. You will see, we have $120,000 in professional fees and services. We have discussed at length the use of some of that money for a temporary attorney salary and benefits. The number that you are seeing is calculated as of that person starting January 1 of 2026. We have not hired that person. So, I didn't adjust that number at this time because I anticipate another slight adjustment that we'll talk about here in a minute. And so that number will get adjusted once we are into our February cycle. That individual, that whoever fills that position will not be obviously coming on in January. It will be a little bit farther down the line. So we will save a little bit of money there. I just did not adjust it at this time to not change too much all at one time. We'll adjust it in February. Any questions on that? Or any other question on the budget?
So the professional fees and services is just a conservative number to keep a placeholder in the budget until we.
Yes, that's correct.
Any other questions or comments? Not hearing anything, so go ahead, Rebecca.
That's it for the budget, I believe. Addie we did request refunds for Kogel. And as Addie indicated, Kogel granted those requests for refunds, but they hadn't come through as of the date of the budget yet. So they'll be on the next one. For the next attachment. Not hearing any other questions with the budget. We'll go to our filings and case management report for December, not November. That's a typo on the agenda. For December. So in the month of December, we received 3 complaints, and then we received 1 meeting notice. It was a slow month in December. If you go down to the complaint activity for the month of December, we were able to clear out or dismiss 6 complaints. We have not settled. We just started working on settling complaints in December, and with the Christmas holiday, etc. I expect you will start seeing those in the coming months, those settled complaints. And then we have 42 pending complaints. During our pre-meeting yesterday, Cindy and Logan and I talked about those pending complaints, and we'll talk about it in executive session a little bit more in depth. But just for public information, 42 complaints is what is currently pending before the commission. Of those 42, 3 of those complaints are from, I want to get the dates right, 2023. 5 of them are from 2024, and the remainder of them are from 2025. Now, keep in mind, we are a fair amount into January. This is how many would be pending as of December 31st of 2025. We'll get updated numbers again in February for January, but just so there is this perception that there is a bit of a backlog, and I want to provide that information to the commission because we have been working through those, what I would consider older complaints, and the majority of these complaints, the far majority of these pending complaints are from 2025, and we'll continue to work through those. Any questions? Hearing none, I'll go on to the human resources update. As we just discussed, we do have a opening or a temporary attorney position. I have been waiting on that position, and I will give you guys a more detailed update on that in February. Once we have a little bit more information this week and next week. So moving to our interns, we interviewed, as I already indicated, 7 individuals for the commission's legal internship position over the summer. We did extend 2 offers. One was not accepted because of housing constraints here in Bismarck and the cost of housing. And the other one was accepted. I then extended an offer to another law student who is, was the next highest score. And we are awaiting a response. We will have a response by Friday. I anticipate that to be a moving forward, something that will move forward. So I anticipate, I can report at this time that I anticipate we will have 2 summer legal interns working for the Ethics Commission. That will help out extensively with our complaint work and with our general counsel and general research. That will give Logan some help, some much needed help in that area. Any questions on those? The next HR update, this is really more of not an update, but a discussion.
Rebecca, I think Ron had a question.
I'm sorry, I had a question and I was muted. Are they both second-year interns?
Yes, they are. They're both second-year law students. They'll be finished with their second year.
Okay,
And Ron, I want to be really clear. We interviewed 7 people, and they were all great. We had a great candidate pool for our internship. The strongest in the sense of the number of applicants, individuals who were informed about the Ethics Commission. I was really pleased with the turnout that we had in applicants for the internship program.
good.
Any other questions? Hearing none. This is more of a discussion that we do need to have. We are preparing for our operations administrator to be out on leave from mid-May to mid-August. And so we need to determine how we need to manage that workload. When we transitioned operation administrators from our past operation administrator to our current operations administrator, we left that position unfilled with our past operations administrator helping out at night, very, very part-time, maybe a few hours a week, right? That's what she did. A few hours a week. There was a lot of work for Addie to do when she started and to play catch up. I still feel like there are some things that we are still catching up on from that 2-month lapse of not having somebody in that position. So I met with our HR business partner, Jill Mugas. You guys have met Jill before. I apologize. The 3 new commissioners may have not met Jill, but you certainly should. She is our go-to person on HR questions. And so what we talked about is how we meet the needs of the commission during that time. We certainly need somebody to be in that position, and we need somebody to pick up that workload. And so we talked about 2 options. One is to hire a temporary employee on a very temporary basis during that time frame. Or the other option is to lean into hiring another intern. Both of these options have benefits and drawbacks. If we were to hire an intern, there would be a potential that we could have that intern be working full-time and then stay on in a part-time kind of administrative assistant capacity into their school year, potentially. So there is a little bit more potential there. We could potentially do that with a temporary employee as well. Jill wasn't as confident that we would be able to do that, since we're going from a full-time temporary person that would then transition to a part-time. She wasn't very confident in finding somebody to meet that unique time dynamic. So if we do opt to hire an intern for that workload that we have over the summer, we can apply once again and participate in OMB's internship program. And so that helps us out on the cost side substantially, because OMB will cover 50% of the cost of the intern on the salary side. We still have to cover IT. We still have to cover a few things. And now, Addie, you sent me the estimate, and I'm going to find it here. So if we were to go with an intern, the total cost would be about 13,000. And OMB, if we applied and were approved for the internship program, they would be covering about 5,700 of that. So as we look at our budget, that seems to be like a good option based on how much we are looking at having left at the end of the biennium. We would focus on recruiting a college student, either in business administration, communications, accounting, even marketing is what Jill said. We might want to tap that into that market. If we go with a temporary employee, the cost will be higher. We likely will also have to pay somebody more per hour. And Jill did express some concern or not entire confidence in finding a quality individual in that temporary part-time capacity. So Ms. Mugas, her recommendation to the commission was to go with hiring an intern in hopes that we could start this intern in early May and give them a little bit of a learning curve and overlap before the mid-May or end of May timeline. So I'd like to hear the thoughts on the commission. I do have a recommendation in there, but it's certainly not set in stone. It's set in sand at this point.
This is Rebecca, this is Jared. I definitely don't think we can afford to have a gap while Addie's out. And so the OMB program, I assume they have an established pool of individuals who they would pick from, or.
So we would post a job using the same way that we did for the legal interns.
Okay.
You post a position. Now, in this instance, we would focus on BSc and UMary students, so we would make sure that it's posted specifically on their job posting boards. Or job posting. I don't know what it's called anymore. Jill does. So Jill would post it aiming, with that as our target audience for those. So they don't necessarily have a pool. There's a pool of money
Sure.
that we can tap into. The drawback of hiring an intern is that we may not get somebody with a whole lot of experience. Addie and I have had discussions that we are going to be working on significant amount of budget stuff prior to her leave in mid-May. So we're hoping to front end some of that as we prepare for legislative session and getting our budget documents in July.
This is Ron. I would also include in the possible pool of interns, and I think the intern idea is good, is first-year law students for a couple reasons. Number one, I think you'd get a lot of applications, and probably a lot of applications with some experience. And number two, that person, if we hired him or her, would have we'd have a possibility of that person continuing as a second-year intern for us.
Would first-year law students be interested in doing like a business internship?
I think they would. I know when I was a first year, I ended up working as a research assistant for the Department of Education at the university. And that certainly was not, and that was only like 6 weeks. And it was not the ideal position for me because I had a family and I couldn't move from Grand Forks, but other people would be able to. But I know first years kind of have to hustle for jobs during that interim period. Mark, would you agree?
I think that a first-year law student at the University of North Dakota School of Law wants to find any job that is somehow remotely related to law, and this could be a hook. This is a line on a resume that says that the law student had sought something, again, remotely connected to law. I don't see any harm in looking at that avenue for potential applicants.
Yeah. Well, I like the idea. And I really do like using interns, and I wouldn't have even thought. So thank you, Ron, for suggesting that, because yeah, I think that's a good suggestion.
And I don't think they'd be any more expensive than a university student.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have, Jill came up with a pay range for us that we should aim for in what she calls business internships. That's what we use to do our calculations.
Any other questions or comments? So, do we have a motion?
This is Jared.
move that. Go ahead, Jared. Sorry.
Thanks, Ron. I would move to authorize the executive director to develop a job description, solicit applications, and hire a business intern for summer 2026.
This is Pam. I'll second that.
We have a motion. Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the roll. Hattie?
Commissioner Huber.
Aye.
Commissioner Sharp.
Aye.
Commissioner Western.
Aye.
Vice Chair Goodman.
Aye.
And Chair Lindquist.
Aye. Motion carries. All right.
Moving right along, transcription services. This is a very small update. Just the fact that IT has now handed it over to us to do some testing. And so Addie will be doing that this coming month, in the coming weeks. I believe there are 2 platforms that they asked us to try, right? Or is there?
One specifically transcriptions.
Yep,
Yeah.
one, and then they also, as we were discussing transcriptions, the other kind of administrative or operational issue we run into is editing of videos. We do post all of the commission meetings online so that you can go back and watch them. The current program that we use is slow and has limitations. And so many of the companies or the platforms that offer transcription services also offer video editing services where we can upload, and it makes it a little bit easier and has fewer restrictions on timeframes, for example, editing capabilities, potentially adding dates, etc. So one of the options includes that video editing capability. But they did they kind of gave us 2 based on their testing, and they'll hand it back to us. I believe one of them I've played around with a little bit, that Rev one, but we will hopefully wrap that up soon and have a cost estimate for the commission. I do believe that there's going to be a de minimis cost for us testing these. We may have to either sign up for a free trial or a trial period for between $15 to $20. And although the commission's budget is tight, I do think we should expend the $15 to $20. So, but we don't need a motion on $15 to $20. Any questions on transcription services? Hearing none, public priorities survey update. So the commission approved this at its last special meeting. The public priorities survey was published on the website. This went out in a news release on Monday at 9 a.m. Chair Lindquist also did us a huge favor and recorded a video to encourage the public to participate. And we plan on putting that up on social media to encourage more responses. I will be very frank with the commission. I was hoping to encourage responses, meaning that I was thinking we would not be getting very many and we would need to utilize Chair Lindquist's video in order to prompt more responses. And we have yet to post Chair Lindquist's video because of the responses we've gotten. Now, it is still going to go up, Cindy. The fact that Logan and I were out sick yesterday was, you know, a factor in the fact that it didn't go up. But as of the start of this meeting, we had just over 500 responses.
Whoa.
I like Pam's face. So I was honestly, based on our previous interaction with the public, the commissions, I was hoping for maybe 100 responses in total. And we are on not even 48, we are just over 48 hours in and we have over 500 responses. So I think we will get some good data. I did reach out to NDIT yesterday and say, hey, we are going to have way more data than I thought we are going to have. And they offered help into synthesize that and make it viewable and easily digestible. So I look forward to working with them. And I just get excited when we have that much data. So that's great. Any questions on that?
Well, maybe just the comment, Rebecca. I'm not worried about my video going up, and if it doesn't go up, I'm fine with it not going up, because I was like, I found it awkward. I haven't done that kind of thing for a long time, and I'm like, but Addie and the staff helped me. We did it on the Teams platform, so I had the background for it and that, but and they gave me a little bit of a script also to follow in that. But the other thing is, since we are in session in a public meeting for the North Dakota Ethics Commission, that survey is going to be out and live through February 17th.
That's correct.
Is our plan. So for those of you from the public who are joining us, please share that link with your friends and colleagues. We are soliciting your help and guidance. This is going to inform us about our work. It's also going to help us because our February meeting is going to focus on our plan, our strategic plan for the Ethics Commission and our work for the next several years. So I'm really looking forward to seeing the results. And I'm happy. Yay, North Dakota is paying attention.
They are showing up big time.
Any other questions or comments, commissioners? All right. Anything else, Rebecca?
That's it for my report for the month of January.
All right. We will move on to ongoing business. And under that, our first is the proposed complaint rule amendments. Which has been a lot of work.
And a lot of work. I think it would be good if we have Logan walk through the changes that we made since the special meeting, and then the discussion of that we need to have following that.
And we, just for the public's clarity in that, we had a special meeting the 22nd last week on the complaint rules and that. So if you were able to join us, and yes, there's been a lot of work and effort put into this. So Logan, please take us through this.
Sure. I'm having Addie bring it up, so. There it is. So you'll see at the top, this was last updated the day of our special meeting following the feedback from the commission. So as we walk through it, what changed from that special meeting is highlighted. If you can scroll down to the bottom of page 2. The commission wanted to add and complain it to the jurisdiction section to communicate that the commission will have jurisdiction over the complainant's filing of that complaint until the commission is essentially done with the complaint and the expiration of any appeal period. Mostly concerning the filing of a complaint in bad faith, if that's an issue within the complaint itself. Or page 3. So you'll see here in sub 7, we added sub 7B that the commission can summarily dismiss the complaint if the commission determines, and the biggest change here is the addition of number 4, if the complaint was submitted in bad faith. There's extra grounds to dismiss the complaint at that stage. And you'll see that repeated where the complainant can file a motion to dismiss the complaint alleging that it was in fact submitted in bad faith. Just to keep that consistent. Next change is not until page 7. In sub 6, the commission discussed adding this sentence that the commission shall determine what penalty, if any, authorized under North Dakota law will be imposed upon the complainant. I would have the suggestion here that that's surplusage and you don't need that, given that the focus is on bad faith complaints. So that's the penalty that's imposed, is dismissal of their complaint. And you already take care of that in the foregoing 2 sections that we just discussed. So I don't think you need to repeat it here. I know you discussed you wanted to include it, or there was some discussion. So we included it for purposes of you being able to see it, but my suggestion would be to remove it in that section. And then the last change is on the last page. Complaint submitted in bad faith, just some verbiage changes here, adding that a commissioner can suggest that or determine that the complaint was filed in bad faith and bring that to the full commission. And then before it referenced a piece of the Constitution, but that's not referenced anywhere else. So we changed that and simplified it to has not submitted a complaint in bad faith in 2, and then submitted a complaint in bad faith in 3. And then we removed those monetary sanctions and just made it dismissal of the complaint as one of the suggestions of the non-monetary directives in sub 4. Any questions? I did go through that pretty quickly.
So Logan, the language that you suggest is surplusage. You're saying essentially already cover that on the top of page 5. And again, at the sort of bottom of page 3. And your suggestion is that the penalty or sanction that we're referring to would be dismissed.
Correct. That's penalty that's authorized under North Dakota law is that their complaints dismissed.
Sure, okay.
And that's the only one tonight. So I don't necessarily see the value of it. Again, it's sub 6. Now, if something changes in the law, we'd have to go through the rulemaking process anyway to add that in.
So we'd have to, because, okay, and that's what I'm recalling is that we put this language in there, the language on page 7. In the event that another type of sanction would become available to us, but without specifically mentioning it in there. But thank you. It's good to know that we'd have to do the rulemaking process anyway, if that would happen. So we would address it at that time.
Yes, so let's say the legislature passes a bill, you still have to go through the rulemaking process in response to the bill. So if that's changed, we add it at that time.
Thank you.
Other questions, comments?
Yes, this is Ron. Could we take out the last sentence of number 4? Just simply take it out. That gives us a little more flexibility.
Ron, are you in section? I just want to make sure we know where we're at. Are we in 115.02.01.13?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You could take it out, Ron. Not necessary per se. It gives more direction to the people reading the rules of what it may include, but
What do other commissioners think? We had a long discussion on this last month, I know, or at a special meeting, I guess.
I think one of the questions, and maybe this seems to be an esoteric discussion, but we're all trying to, I think, solve this issue in a way that is open and transparent. What is the purpose of Section 4? I assume that it is to explain what we have the authority to do. Obviously, and I know I raised this issue in our meeting last week, what exactly does North Dakota law authorize us to do? At the moment, it doesn't seem like a heck of a lot. We agree that we have the authority to sanction a complainant by dismissing the complaint. Do we really have any other authority granted to us at this point under the statutes or through the Constitution? That's more esoteric than we need on a Wednesday morning, but that's really the question here. I'm pleased that we have collectively decided or confirmed that we don't necessarily have the authority in the rule to state some kind of monetary penalty. I think that was out beyond our skis. Do we really truly have additional authority? I think in response to the question raised by Commissioner Goodman, whether the sentence stays or remains at the end of 115.02.01-13, the commission still has the exact same amount of authority. I yield.
Well, I think, and Logan, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Logan has done a memo on some of our authority, and I don't know that we have that yet, but that may clarify some of this. Would you agree, Logan?
Kind of, Ron. That memo, I haven't finalized it yet. That's in a different context. That's under the constitutional authority regarding public officials, lobbyists, and candidates for office, what that piece of the Constitution means. Here, it's different because we're looking at a complainant who doesn't appear in Article 14. So when we talk about rulemaking in the context of the complaint process, it's really going back to looking at what the statutory framework the legislature created and what that allows. It gets messy because it's in conjunction with Article 14, but it's also the legislative created complaint process. So it's a different lens that we're looking at here and from our discussion last week than when we look at, for example, the travel rules. There's different considerations because that goes back to the Constitution where this doesn't necessarily do that.
Okay, well, one comment is if the complainant appeared in Article 14, we'd have a bunch of people running around that article. So that wouldn't be good. But in this context, I think if we just get rid of that last sentence in number 4, it doesn't hurt anything, gives us more flexibility, and we can deal with that another day, maybe even after the legislature meets again.
I am personally comfortable removing the last sentence of sub 4, and I'm also personally comfortable removing the language under 115.02.01.08 sub 6. Quote, the commission shall determine what penalty, comma, if any, comma, authorized under North Dakota law will be imposed upon the complainant, period, end quote, as surplus. I can't say that fancy word. I think that removing both of those creates consistency, and I think it is incumbent upon the commission to work with the legislature during the legislative session to provide legislative guidance upon what other sanctions or penalties, whatever the word may be, are appropriate under authority granted to the commission by the legislature. And so with that, I would move to omit or delete the two sentences. First, under 115.02.01.08 sub 6, delete the highlighted sentence, and to delete the last sentence of 115.02.01-13 sub 4.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Further questions or discussion? And Commissioner, both Goodman and Western, thank you. For me, as one of your non-legal people, it's like, especially Mark, you really articulated it clearly for me, and I could not have said it that well to what this work is and how we've gotten to this iteration of the complaint rules. Any other comments or questions?
Thank you for the kind words. We're all trying to do our level-headed best to make things clear and transparent, and sometimes we get into the weeds, but I think the amendments make sense, and thank you for your kind words. I yield.
Hearing no other questions or comments, I'll ask Addie to call the roll on the motion.
Commissioner Hubright. Aye. Commissioner Sharp.
Aye.
Commissioner Western.
Aye.
Vice Chair Goodman.
Aye.
And Chair Lindquist.
Aye. Motion carries. Yay, congratulations.
Is it appropriate at this time then to move for final passage on the entire rule for publication, since we just handled the amendments?
Yes. And
Yes.
I
Okay.
would add to, before the commission does approve, you should make a record that you considered both the oral comments and all the written comments that were submitted to the commission to comply with the rulemaking process. You just have to say we've considered them, but it's been an ongoing discussion as this has been on the agenda, that you've had them as part of your meeting materials, and some of the amendments are in response. But we should make that clear for the record.
I had personally reviewed the comments from the Attorney General's office and other comments made part of our tabs during our special meeting of January 22nd. And I expect that other commissioners have considered the comments of the public and others made during that period. I am satisfied that the work of the commission has considered the comments made by the public and other governmental entities, and I would respectfully move final passage of the proposed rule for publication.
Have a motion?
I'll second.
Second.
Second. Any further questions or discussion? Addie, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Hubright,
Aye.
Commissioner Sharp,
Aye.
Commissioner Western,
Aye.
Vice Chair Goodman,
Aye.
and Chair Lindquist.
Aye. And again, thank you, Mark, for articulating our thoughts relative to the public comments. And yes, we all, I'm sure, have read those, which will become part of the record. Just to note that the formal public hearing was held on September 9th. This topic has been on our agenda for several months, and we had the public comment period. So those would be available now also. And I also want to thank Logan for your excellent work on this throughout this process and putting up with us and our back and forth on this, particularly in onboarding new commissioners. Thank you, the three of you, very much for jumping right in, and good work, led by, of course, by Rebecca Binstock. I believe this is quite an accomplishment from my perspective, but I think we've done it well. All right, moving on. We're still on ongoing business, item 5 on our agenda, rules related to Ethics Commission organizational structure.
Cindy, do you want me to give just a kind of a primer on where we're at on these?
Yes, please.
So during the December meeting, the commission requested that we make a few changes. And to be honest, the changes are actually removals. So Logan will direct us to those here shortly as Addie pulls up the attachment. I also want to note for the commission that there are still substantive work that remains on these rules, specifically Commissioner Western and I would like to meet with him. I have not had the opportunity to do that, specifically on the discovery aspects of this. But for now, I just want, and that's discovery, which is the last section. However, I'd like Logan to just talk about what changes we did make and let the commission know that there are more changes to come still on this. So we're not requesting final passage or approval of this at this time. These also haven't gone out. Sorry, I got way ahead of myself. These haven't gone out for rulemaking yet. So
No, we're still in the development stage of these rules, and really the only change that has been made is that you'll see the section on the executive director's relations with the media that has been removed, given the previous discussion. And then the sections have been renumbered, so that section is now shorter.
Sure.
But that's the only change thus far.
I'd point out, Madam Chair, that the words relations with citizens and media are still up on the heading, but I know that's a typo that can just get pulled out with the rest of the renumbering.
Thank you for pointing that out. We will make sure it's fixed.
So I do want to just add a comment on this, that having that relations with citizens and media portion out of the rule, we do still have the policy that is in place, which, you know, transitions very well to our next topic. And that perhaps that is a policy that the commission can and should review for future modification. We have a policy that we will need to review at the February meeting, so we could certainly do it then or in the future as well. But just to put that out there, we still do have the policy in place.
Any other questions or comments? All right. So we can move on?
Yep.
Okay, we're on item 9 on our agenda, annual review of code of ethics and policies and procedures. Rebecca?
So if you refer to the very last attachment that you were given today for in preparation for today's meeting, you will see a work plan and schedule for the calendar year 2026. In January, we will be, and we are, doing a review of the policies and procedures as well as the internal code of ethics. I want to draw your attention to the internal code of ethics. Yes, all of you new commissioners, particularly Jared, just signed these, but we do need to redo them for 2026. That's what we have in our policy. And so in January of every year, we review the policies and procedures. Cindy, I don't plan, given the fact that my head is pounding, I guess I don't plan on walking through each of the policies and procedures. But what we do need to do is if the commissioners can review each of these on their own, I'm going to point out a few things in the internal code of ethics. And then we will need to have those forms that are included. Addie can also send them out by email afterwards, signed by each of the commissioners. I also want to note for the public that commission staff also sign and review these every year. So it is not just the commissioners that are bound by the internal code of ethics, as well as the policies and procedures, but us as staff do as well. Turning to the internal code of ethics, you will see in there is, this actually was amended at the end of 2024, right? Before we adopted it in 25, it hadn't been amended since the commission's inception back in 2019. And you will see, it wasn't paid until 24. Yeah. At the bottom is really where it starts with what the commissioners and staff should avoid, which would result or create in an appearance of meaning that doing any of these things could affect the commission, and so that you should avoid them. Using public office for private gain, giving preferential treatment to any business or person, losing independence or impartiality, and then an ethics commission decision being made outside of official channels. And then 5 is adversely affecting anything that would adversely affect the confidence of the public in the integrity of the Ethics Commission or any of its programs. These then go on to discuss, I believe it's, 4 specific things that have been discussed at length between over the years, the unauthorized use of state-owned property, how we handle conflicts of interest, and that we are required to disclose those, how we handle potential gifts, and then holding public office and political activity. So you will note this is probably the one that comes up that we get questions on the most about staff or the Ethics Commission, and this is just a public question, is that making monetary and in-kind contributions to candidates or committees of candidates under the jurisdiction of the Ethics Commission is prohibited. It does not, however, prohibit contributions to candidates for federal office or taking positions on federal ballot measures, since the commission has no jurisdiction over federal candidates or issues. Also within this section, it walks through the fact that no member of the Ethics Commission shall hold other public office or be a lobbyist, candidate for public office, or a public party official. Again, however, because of jurisdictional limitations, nothing in this internal code of ethics prohibits commission or staff from participating in a board or commission outside the jurisdiction of the Ethics Commission. For instance, if somebody would like to serve on a school board or a park board, or at the federal level, they are welcome to do so. Any other things you want to point out? Don't accept gifts, disclose conflicts of interest, and do not use your state-owned property for personal gain. That is the summary on the internal code of ethics. Any questions from the commissioners? I will preview at the February meeting, the commission will be reviewing and considering for adoption an infant in office policy. We have not, unlike other offices or agencies, we have yet to adopt a policy on that. So I will present that for the commission's consideration in February.
So any questions or comments? And Rebecca, then you'd like us to sign those two forms, which were attachments, what, 7 and 9?
I believe they were 7.
Yeah.
Yep.
Annual policies and procedures review, and then the internal code of ethics annual review. And so if you can just sign those forms, please, or that page, and get them back into Rebecca.
Rebecca, I assume your last statement was in anticipation of something that's going to happen in the future?
Yes.
That's what I
mean,
thought.
we always, we tend to adopt policies when we need them, many times, hopefully in advance. So we are planning that may be the case in this office.
Okay.
So we have something.
Okay. That takes care of that item. We'll move on to item 7 on our agenda, Kogel takeaway.
So Commissioner Sharp, anytime you want to jump in on this, please feel free to do that. As discussed at the January meeting, in December, Commissioner Sharp, myself, our General Counsel Carpenter, and our Operations Administrator Mose all attended the COGO conference in Atlanta. And we participated. There were sessions from 7:30 in the morning until 5 o'clock in the evening. And there were multiple sessions that we could attend. I think there was maybe only 1 or 2 that we overlapped on. I know Commissioner Sharp and I sat into one together. And Logan typically was focused on what we call the enforcement or investigation tracks of the COGO. And what? And then, yep, the legal issues. Addie focused on education issues. I focused on legislative, and relationship building, I guess you could call it. And so what I did is after we attended COGO, we gave kind of the commissioners a really brief, very brief kind of overview last meeting, but I wanted to provide the commission with a, hey, what did we learn and what are we going to do different? Or how can we improve based on what we learned at COGO? What you won't see in here is this doesn't get into the substance of what COGO was about, what we learned. But really it's our key observations after we attended the COGO conference. I really like attending COGO because I think it is a good place where we can really gauge our processes, procedures, activity, substantive laws against those of other jurisdictions. We have a few jurisdictions that we specifically, I would say, compare to or use as our peer jurisdictions. You've probably heard me talk quite a bit about New Mexico. We also tend to use Oklahoma. Theirs is set up a little different. And then we rely on those other, the seven other constitutional ethics commissions. But really, I looked at COGO as saying, you know, where are our strengths, where are our gaps, and then where is the commission potentially exposing them to themselves, or where do we potentially have some risk? And so I think that walking through kind of what we took away from COGO can help planning, particularly, this is like my teacher nudge, nudge. This is really setting up our strategic planning in February. So I will jump in and get started. You want to go down to page 2 right away, Addie? Oh, one more, please. There we go. So I'm going to have Logan, if he wants to jump in on this at all. One of our concerns, Logan's in particular, when he came in as general counsel, is are we doing and conducting our investigations and processing our complaints in the same way and according to due process, in the same way that other ethics commissions are? Are we using the same internal processes? Are we, do we have procedures internally that mirror what other ethics commissions who've been doing it much longer? The North Dakota Ethics Commission has been referred to as in its toddler stage. I think that's probably accurate, as opposed to other ethics commissions that have been around since the 1970s, the 1980s, or the 1990s. So this is something that Logan, as our general counsel, observed, that our internal procedures align very well with what we would call accepted national norms. We may even have the same struggles when it comes to the complaint process, but really in how we conduct our interviews, how we process things, how we reach out to individuals, attempt to get information from individuals, all of that is very consistent with what Logan sees in other investigative processes. Now, I want to be very clear. This does not mean that our complaint process is normal or is very similar to the national norm. Our actual complaint process has more steps than other ethics commissions and is set up differently. But within that process, we still conduct interviews, we request documents, we attempt to settle. All of those things, those internal components for the complaint process, Logan really found, his comment, I think, was something like, yeah, we're doing what everybody else is doing. And considering the fact that we are very early on in the commission's existence, I view that as a very positive thing. It means that our processes and our internal procedures are sound and credible. Does it mean that we just need to forget about them and say, yep, they're good? No, we will continue to work on those and improve those as needed, and learn more about those. But to me, this is a very strong takeaway that we are doing and proceeding the way other ethics commissions are proceeding. Do you want to add anything?
Covered it.
Pam, do you have anything on this one?
No, you covered it well.
Any questions, comments? So the takeaway from this is good job, thumbs up for implementing the processes and procedures that we have. On the education, communication, and outreach, this is what I've identified as a growth area where we can have a high impact when we have resources available to do this. At Kogel, I would say one of the biggest, if not the biggest focus, is how to provide meaningful, effective, plain language education. This is an entire track. I sat through several of these. There are individuals who this is their entire job, is to come up with how can we educate folks better on ethical standards and ethical rules. This is a gap area. We have a huge gap in this area. Now, I will say that we have attempted our best to do this with very little resources and no money, but this is an area that other ethics commissions highly prioritize. Why do they do that? They do it because it's proactive. It ensures that you have ethical decision making ahead of time instead of issues down the line. They have found that this builds trust in local governments, state governments, even in the federal government. And this is where we really lag behind. There are, I mean, I think every presentation I sat in on focused on their education efforts, what they are doing, how they may have entire education platforms. They may have required training. They have timelines. They have, and then the other side of this is then the public outreach, allowing or ensuring that the public knows what the expectations of public officials are. So this is a heavily invested area for other ethics commissions that we do not have the resources to invest at this stage, but we do need to focus this. There was a lot of discussion about unintended non-compliance, meaning that people don't know that they're not complying. And that is a risk that we have in North Dakota because we have limited outreach that's happening, where if individuals did know and understand rules, we would likely have more compliance, and that would be that get rid of that unintentional non-compliance. So education is a huge, huge takeaway from Kogel, and something that the commission likely needs to consider whether it needs to be having more resources allocated to it in the future. Any questions on that? All right, moving on to substantive ethics laws. So this is going to be laws governing elections, campaigns, corruption prevention, potentially lobbying regulation, government transparency, meaning what we call as sunshine laws. And if you look at the scope that other ethics commissions, just the scope of their substantive laws and the strength of them, we do trail many states in this area. Not every state. I want to be very clear. There are some states that are behind us, but this is an area where we are lacking substantive ethics laws in many areas. And so that can affect the commission's effectiveness. I love when we use the word effect twice. I mean, different contexts in the same sentence. But this is something that the commission also can take into consideration when it's working on its strategic planning. Any questions on this one? This is just a really kind of blunt way of saying we have some substantive law gaps.
Were there a lot of legislators at the meeting? Or not? Or don't you know?
I don't think so, Ron. We did talk to one former legislator from Canada, but that was the only legislator that I spoke to.
And the reason I ask is simply because of this point. You know, we have some influence on it, but it'd be nice to have legislative input too in a Kogel conference.
Yeah, Ron, when we talk about this area too, it impacts the commission's rules too. A lot of ethics commissions have much more comprehensive ethics rules as well.
That's actually what I'm talking about here, not legislation
Not
necessarily.
statutes.
Yeah, not statutes.
Does our legislature know about Kogel? I mean, and should they know, or should we at least make them aware that, hey, there's this thing out here? Maybe, you know, and I don't know, should we be encouraging legislators to consider attending? Or is that outside of what we should be doing?
Cindy, I think we certainly could encourage legislators to attend. It really is a conference focused on individuals who are executing and implementing ethics rules in their state. Some of the individuals who attended are what we would call legislative ethics, meaning that they are part of the legislative branch's internal, I mean, you want to call it like an inspector general for the legislature?
They work for ethics commissions that are specifically for legislatures,
Yes.
and not more broad like ours is. But I think there's some people who are legislators that are part of Kogel, but I don't think there's large attendance by those people.
And likewise, and Secretary of State, because Secretary of State, at least for us, right, they're the ones who do most of the stuff under campaign finance, right? So
Cindy, I did have a conversation with Secretary Howe. I notified him that we go to this, that it's really good, that I encouraged him to see if he would like to attend, and I forwarded all of the information to him and his deputy. So I have initiated that with the Secretary of State.
because it seems to me the year I attended, it seems like there were people from Secretary of State's offices. And I think I sat at tables with one or two, if my memory's right, but just curious and yeah, and again, more work or yeah.
Yep.
Rebecca and Logan, I'm glad you made the distinction of rules versus legislation. I have a thought maybe on the legislative or at a later slide, but as we move toward a strategic plan, maybe we consider doing a synthesis of other similar ethics commission rules. See how different or more extensive they really are than ours, just as a starting point.
Yep. Great idea. All right, moving on, if there are no other questions on this slide. So this is, I'm going to walk through this slide pretty word for word because I think it's extremely point on. There is an external threat to the Ethics Commission we are, the Ethics Commission falls in to all of the risk factors that the Campaign Legal Center has identified in its report. This is one of the reasons that I was asked to be a panelist for this discussion. We have what we consider a significant probability of risks, meaning that there is an increased pressure, there is vulnerable to external interference and politicization, and we have to build resilience to these what I consider external, or what the Campaign Legal Center has identified or termed external threats. So this is something that we have seen, and that is what I would call an emerging priority, is that we have to build resistance, or not resistance, excuse me, that's the wrong word, resilience, not resistance. It's actually the opposite, because resilience focuses on relationship building. And so this is an emerging priority for the commission, as where education is a high impact priority, meaning that we can make a high impact. This is something that we build up through strategic planning and how we address potential threats that may come our way. And so this is something that, as we do our strategic planning, we will identify as issues the commission has to address. This is one of those issues. And again, I included the Campaign Legal Center's threat assessment for 2025. I included that as the attachment next to this presentation. If you have not had a chance to read that yet, I would encourage you to read it. It has a lot of good information about not just the North Dakota Ethics Commission, but other ethics commissions and what they're facing across the country. And then in the takeaways from that threat assessment, it is, how can ethics commissions build up resilience? One of them is hiring the right people and being prepared for certain things. The other one is building relationships. And so that has been a goal or a priority for the commission for a long time, is building those relationships. So we'll continue to do that. Any questions on this slide or additions? Pam, always feel free to jump in.
You're doing well, Rebecca.
Moving on to staffing and capacity. The North Dakota Ethics Commission operates with significantly fewer staff resources than similarly situated commissions. I've used the term understaffed. I think this probably says it nicer, that we have fewer staff resources. When we have fewer staff resources, that also affects our capacity. What can we do is more limited. How fast can we get through complaints? How much research can we do on something? How much relationship building we can do is limited by our capacity. So this understaffing impacts our timeliness, how quickly we can get through things. Looking at the complaint process, I do want to point out, with advisory opinions, there's a statutory turnaround on those. So this does not impact our advisory opinion timeliness, only because we ensure that we are within the time frame. However, the commission has had to have an extension on those that's been agreed to by the requester, and that came down to timing of things more than anything. It limits the amount of education and outreach we can do. As we talked about last May after legislative session, the commission deprioritized education and outreach because of the lack of staffing and capacity. This also impacts our long-term strategic planning. And this really comes down to long-term strategic planning requires input, requires time to do that. And that can't be a priority when we are putting fires out on everyday things. So that is also impacted. I also want to talk about staff sustainability. This understaffing really does affect staff sustainability. I will give an example. I'm assuming Logan does not mind me saying that both Logan and I have not been feeling well this week. We were both out sick yesterday. So yesterday, 2/3 of the commission staff was out sick because Logan and I were sick. If we have a family event, if we have a illness, particularly for an extended period of time, that puts strain on our processes and our procedures because we don't have a bench of staff that can fill in. Thankfully, we are scrappy and we fill in where needed, but it really comes down to the fact that there is only one of us doing a particular job. And so that puts quite a bit of strain on our sustainability. So this also increases our institutional risk. We saw that when we had turnover. Turnover in staff impacts us in a way that it maybe doesn't impact larger agencies because we are down, when we lose one person, we are losing 33% of our workforce and our staffing. That is a significant strain on the other individuals that have to pick up that slack or pick up that workload. So this is a real concern, and what we need to find a way is to how to translate these operational realities on our staffing and the impacts that it has on a very operational specific level to the legislature, and that we need to have more staff to do things quicker, to be able to reach more people, and to do better strategic planning and having a staff that is sustainable. So.
Madam Chair, it's Jared, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
So I just want to state for the group that it is always a top priority of mine to give people, especially employees, the resources that they need to get things done. An additional concern that I have, or at least that I've had in past experiences, is burnout of employees who are overloaded. So I had a conversation with Rebecca a couple weeks ago, and I was just thinking ahead to the session, and I started just compiling data from other ethics commissions around the country, what staff they have, the number of staff, and what positions they fill, the budgets that they have. And I'm hopeful we can use that as again, a basis for a strategic plan and maybe to make a pitch to the legislature at some point. But I just wanted to throw it out there. One of the first comments I made to staff was, I don't understand how you don't have more staff here. So for me, it's also a priority. The amount of work that we have to do versus the amount of staff seems like it's imbalanced to me.
Thank you. And I'm really appreciative as a newer commissioner, Jared, that, yeah, you've jumped right in and yeah, you're getting it. And I want to also acknowledge that Rebecca noted that she and Logan were out sick yesterday. But we got on an 1.5-hour prep meeting call. Yes, they were both working from home, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So I've actually told them we need to clone them, because at least at the moment in my observations and all my years of serving on the ethics commission is like, we need at least double our staff, just minimum. Just that's not even getting into the whole point about what we've been trying to do under the whole piece of education, just to keep up with the work we're doing right now in that. So, and I understand, Jared, that you've kind of volunteered, you've begun some analysis relative to staffing needs in that. And Pam, I'm going to kind of throw you in there too, because if I remember your first meeting, you also made some similar comments in that. And then because of your previous work experience professionally in that, I think you and Jared could complement each other to help us, because we've been trying to get some type of a report or analysis. What are our needs? to do this existing work, let alone to get to this other work we've kind of put on the side or on the table, like the whole education component, which permeates everything and all that we do. So I believe we're going to like have Jared and Pam kind of lead a working group, which our February meeting in person in Bismarck is one of the items or topics is our strategic plan. And part of fulfilling and getting a new updated strategic plan is our staffing needs. So anyway, I'm very, very hopeful, and I'm just delighted that, oh, Jared's already kind of jumped right in and got some of that analysis done. But I wanted to just publicly acknowledge also that Rebecca, Logan, and Addie are just excellent employees who go out of their way to make sure our work is being done and that we're prepared so we could have had today's meeting today, even though they are both sick. So thank you so much. But any other comments? All right, hearing none. Rebecca, do you want to continue?
Yeah, I think I just have a wrap up, Cindy, and it really is just articulating that these are our key takeaways from Kogel, is that we need to focus on strengthening education and our outreach capacity to do that. And then once we have that capacity, refining it and getting better at doing it. We need to communicate our resource needs, what Jared was just talking about, to the Legislative Assembly. We need to find effective ways to communicate those resource needs. And then identify also, I think, what Jared said, identifying those substantive law gaps for future consideration, and then build that institutional resistance. Or I keep saying resistance, excuse me, I mean resilience. Please do not, that's not a fraudulent slip by any means. I did not sleep well last night, so please forgive me. But building institutional resilience against external pressures and what resources we need to do that. I think that Campaign Legal Center overview really provides a working framework for how we can do that. So Kogel was a success. I learned a lot. I learned things that I'm glad to see. I loved when Logan came back from the first enforcement. Was it the first enforcement one? And you said, hey, we're doing everything we should. And I'm like, that is fantastic news. Because the first time Logan and I went to Kogel, he went through that and he went, wow, we have a lot of things to change. And we did. And he came back and he implemented a lot of those things that he walked out of Kogel with back in 2023. So I'm really proud of that. And I think that's a really good sign that we are, despite all of the capacity restraints that we have, we are responding to what we need to do. That's all I have.
Great,
Unless
thank
anybody-
you. No, thank you much. But any other questions or comments, commissioners?
Hey Cindy, it's Jared.
Yes.
One question for Rebecca, and you have to forgive my lack of history on the commission during legislative sessions, but have we ever participated? Yeah, I'm remembering from my time working for the state of North Dakota that there are events held for legislators where certain agencies have a booth. Some other organizations host a dinner or an event where legislators can attend, where information is provided. Have we done that? Would we consider doing that during a session?
So I'm going to say yes and no. We've never done a booth because usually during legislative session, we are getting questions from legislators. So that's not something that we've had a real opportunity where we can just take time to do that. What we focus on and what we have focused on prior to the last legislative session is getting the individuals who are on the appropriating subcommittees up to date on where we are, what things are going on. We've not hosted a dinner. The budget has never allowed for us the ability to host a dinner, to have that. Something that, I mean, we could consider having an event and having them come and listen to what our. I do want to share with the commission that we have had several legislators, 3 or 4 now, reach out to us and specifically ask us on staffing or certain issues. And I have said, expect staffing requests from us. So I don't think we've done that necessarily. We've done something in the same spirit, but not directly as other agencies have.
Sure.
Jared and new commissioners, last session, we did ask for an FTE for what was it, Rebecca? Educator position?
Yep.
And we thought we were going to get it. And it ended up no. So, but again, for our February meeting, as we do our strategic planning, this is part of what we'll be strategizing specifically for the 27 legislative session and our needs and that specific to staffing. But coming back to this topic, I want to just encourage if commissioners, if you've not read that, the Campaign Legal Center's 2025 threat assessment report, please read it. It's really informative. It'll help guide us in our work, along with how Rebecca's put together the takeaways from her perspective of attending the COGO conference. It's good information that's going to help us as we do our planning. Any other comments or questions?
I have a thought that I expect those who have more experience both with the legislative session and the process can help me think through the issue, but it's undisputed or cannot be disputed that personal communication between ethics commissioners and legislators is the best recipe for success, either in a budget or a policy desires for a legislative session. What about this? And you know, we're not all centered in Bismarck. However, we don't have funds to create a dinner, but what about making 1 or 2 commissioners available? And I don't know if the legislature meets in full session each day of the week, if there's a set pattern, but what I'm thinking about is, you know, Friday morning coffee at the Ethics Commission, where a legislator can be aware that there are commissioners at our office in the judicial wing, and we have the sincere desire just to communicate about whatever. And with that as some kind of planned backstop, that doesn't, you know, remove the expectation that we should be communicating with legislators once we have a plan, but something like that. Come get coffee and ask a ethics commissioner the what for. I yield.
Yeah, that's a good point, and we have talked about that, and I think we'll talk some more about that during our February planning session.
Mm-hmm.
And that. But any other comments? All right, I have 10:41 a.m. and I'm going to call for a 10 or 15-minute recess. Commissioners, 10 or 15?
15.
15? All right, so we will reconvene in 15 minutes. All right, I see all commissioners have rejoined and we have the office on. So we will reconvene the North Dakota Ethics Commission. And we are on agenda item 8, discussion of public comment opportunity at future Ethics Commission meetings. Rebecca, are you going to walk us through this?
I'm going to have Logan walk through this, if that's
Okay.
okay, Sue.
Yeah.
So after the commission discussed and proposed this idea at its last meeting, I went ahead and started drafting a policy for it. I looked for, as some of you or most of you are aware, the legislature required political subdivisions to have public comment period during their meetings. So I tried to go out and look to see what those policies looked like. And the only one I could find was actually for the city of Mandan. So shout out to the city of Mandan for giving me an example that I could use. I also used our social media, our internal content moderation policy as the starting point. But I guess I'll just walk through it piece by piece. The purpose of it, it's to have a opportunity for people to provide public comment to the commission. I put in there that the public comment period will create a limited public forum. As some newer commissioners are probably aware of this, but our internal content moderation policy for social media, I walked through all the legal requirements, etc., for the different types of public forums. A limited public forum is a public forum that's not traditionally open for comment, but the government entity is making it open for comment on certain topics or agendas, so people can make their voice heard in that limited instance. So that's what this would be at a commission meeting, because if you go to the next section in comments, I put in there that the comments need to relate to an agenda item or something within the commission's areas of work and the areas of transparency, corruption, elections, and lobbying. It can't just be anything and everything that you're going to get in front of the commission and talk about something completely unrelated to the work that the commission does. It has to relate to those areas, be pertinent to the work of the commission, and then be directed to the commission. It's not essentially a soapbox for you to rant about somebody or some issue that's not relevant. And then B, comments can't be defamatory, abusive, harassing, unlawful. And then include exempt or confidential information, including complaint information. You can't submit a complaint by being on the commission's meeting and submitting a public comment that has to go through the complaint process. And it can't interfere with the orderly conduct of the meeting. So, and then we also want to make sure that we separate it from the public input tab, because citizens can provide input anytime to the commission on our website or through email. We all have that tab. I think it's currently hidden as we go through the survey, but that public input tab is really if you don't want to get in front of the commission at a meeting, you can always provide input in written form. So we want to make sure that we emphasize that as well. But if you submit
Logan?
that. Yep, Cindy.
I think I talked with Rebecca about that. And I think this was a couple of weeks ago, and I wasn't able to see where the public could if they just wanted to make a comment, it directed them to fill out the complaint form. So I guess my question is, has that been fixed? So on the website, when they go in there, and the point for public comment, to me, it was tied directly to filing a complaint, not just getting input from the public in general or anyone.
So, I think, Cindy, there's some overlap with our rulemaking process, because that's how we accept some comments with the public input tab.
Yeah.
So the verbiage has changed over time. And I think it's currently hidden, so you can't see it if you go to our website, but it.
Do you want us to pull up the hidden version of what it is? Addie can do that quick.
Yeah, maybe so that other commissioners can see. And I encourage commissioners, please do check out our website for user friendliness, finding things and whatever. And when I talked to Rebecca about it a couple of weeks ago, again, that was I was like, it's fine. There's everything up there is good and access, but there, to me, I couldn't find a place where it's not related, like to the rules, to a hearing process, or and filing a complaint. Isn't, I wanted to be able to just like public comment or something more simpler where somebody just wants to say, hey, you guys, you're doing a good job, hang in there, or whatever, without having to go through rules or the complaint process.
So Cindy, what we have up on the screen right now that the public and the commissioners can see is the back side. This is currently hidden because we want to generate or direct people towards that public priority survey. So this is currently hidden. This will on February 18th go back up. So this will be, it's just hidden temporarily. And this is just for the purposes of not confusing individuals about what they should be submitting right now. So you will see that this has this information. Cindy, when we had our discussion, I think the concern is that we do make this comment that complaints will not be accepted on this form and can be made here. And I think that we need to clarify the language above to emphasize just that you can really say anything here. I think we do that. But we do also include the link to the rules. So I think what we need is clarifying language on this particular form. And Addie, can you scroll down? Because then if they want to fill out that information, they can, and then they can provide a comment here. And this can be anything.
Okay.
But when we go through the rulemaking, we specifically direct people to use this form because then this comes to us directly and it's an easy way for them to submit that. So I think we need, now that we're still in the rulemaking process for the travel disclosure rules, what I think based on our conversation, Cindy, is that we need to clarify the language, like I said.
Yeah. Can you scroll back up to the top? Okay. So there, the Ethics Commission is accepting public input on the amended proposed travel disclosure rules.
Mm.
So that is that then deleted or taken out?
So that will be deleted, yes.
Okay, okay.
So we typically leave that up there even past the deadline in case somebody wants to do something still. But that can be deleted. And then we can just have the next sentence that the Ethics Commission encourages public feedback and input here.
We have a couple iterations of that intro piece saved that we switch out depending on whether there's rules pending or not, Cindy.
Okay.
I don't know what one that's not as rule focused currently says, but it's gone through various iterations of revisions.
Okay. Okay, sorry for digressing us and whatever, but yeah, because I was just trying to, when I was just scrolling around on our website, I was just trying to find, is there just a place where if somebody just wants to make a comment about something or if they're questioning, and I know the FAQs get updated periodically too, and the FAQ section was really good. But, and then for me, again, this is more this point about when we were asked about in person, our meeting in Bismarck, by a citizen of North Dakota about, well, she just wanted to talk to us or say something, and how do we get about it? So that's how we got to Logan drafting us this policy. And I wanted to clarify, so that's part of why I went back to our website just to see what do we have there, and isn't there a place on the website? Yeah, and so there is. Okay. Thanks for clarifying, and sorry to interrupt.
No problem. So that's what subsection C there is trying to take into account. If somebody submits public input using that tab, the idea is that with this policy, it'll be distributed to the commissioners before the meeting. If it's received 24 hours prior, if it's within that 24-hour window, we'll try to get it to you. But if not, you'll receive the public input at some point. when people use that tab. And this was in the city of Mandas policy. I just think it's a good policy to have to incorporate that you are actually receiving that as commissioners, the public input that people send our way. And moving along to 3, the public comment request form. This is again an idea from the city of Mandas policy. There's this in-person focus, but given our virtual hybrid meetings some of the time, how do we know that somebody wants to speak at a meeting? Well, we've asked them to fill out the request form so we can essentially put them on the agenda, not by name, but within that period that these are the individuals who want to speak. So we have a form that they could submit. If it's in person, we have a paper version, but there'd be a public form on our website that they go and fill out their information that they're requesting to provide oral public comment at the commission's meeting, and whether they're going to appear in person or not. We should probably put that in the policy. Scroll down and to see the 3 things that are requested. We should probably add a 4th one, whether they're going to appear in person or, if available, or by Teams. But we'd ask for their name, their address, and the agenda item or topic that they're going to talk about. They don't provide that information. They don't get that opportunity to speak. And then I put in their letter E, that will request their email address so we can just maintain contact with them, but they don't need to provide it. But if they wished us to have their email, so we can contact them if needed. And then F is to say, if you're in, there'll be a paper version that you can fill out.
Well, we're gonna have a comment on B of the same section. To me, it reads they can submit the form, or they can request form prior to the meeting. Just from a staff perspective, do you want to say 24 hours prior? They submit the morning of a meeting. You know, you guys are probably already in a crunch trying to get things ready. Just to give you all the time to organize that.
The idea, I guess, behind it was we regularly take breaks, and if this is going to be the last agenda item, we just say, well, there's how many requests that we received essentially before that agenda item comes up. I guess I don't know the practical implications of it, depending on how many people want to speak. If we got 1 or 2, that's pretty easy to check. But if we have 10 people who are requesting to do this, that might become more difficult. Plus the in-person people, they'd be filling it out right before the meeting.
Sure.
So I'm not sure the best way to handle that.
Could we, I'm gonna ask the question, and I was thinking that we would have to, well, obviously we will be creating a form to do this on our website, which we've gotten pretty darn good with, at NEIT. They've gotten very good at that. Do we want to do it like where we have with like a legislative hearing, that if you're going to appear online or virtual, that you need to do the 1 hour before the meeting?
It's not 1 hour, it's
Or
like
well,
4 or
it's-
5, but that's for submitting testimony
Right.
too. So I don't know.
So
Is there
I
a time period that?
should there
works?
be a time period?
Maybe.
Something for the commission. to
And we could
discuss.
separate it out too, that if you're appearing in person, you can submit it. But if you want to do it virtually, you have to give us so much of a heads up.
Sure. I guess if we're comfortable, if the staff is comfortable using breaks to kind of organize requests for public comment, then I'm fine with that. I think we should state the commission will make every effort to allow a request for public comment to be heard at the meeting. But it's possible. I obviously haven't thought deeply about this, but if it's a last minute request, it might have to wait till the next meeting or something like that. But we will make every effort to make that happen.
Might be something we need to revise too, if it doesn't work to show it that way.
Yeah.
Revisit the policy. Any other questions?
Your
You-
point on, Logan, your point on, E about, the individual's discretion, except, you know, if they want to, if we don't have a way to contact them, how are they going to know that, yeah, we're going to put you on the agenda?
We won't formally add their name to the agenda, Cindy, so it would just be during the time that's reserved for it, you'd ask that person if they're on the meeting and willing to come provide their comment. We won't be in community, they'll submit it, and then it's, if they're at the meeting, they can provide their comment. If they're not, they miss their opportunity to do it.
Yeah.
So there's not really this back and forth between us. You submit the
Yeah.
form and then
Okay.
E was really just a way to track people's information. If they want more information from the commission, they can provide it, sign up for our newsletter, etc.
Okay.
And then 4, you'll see that I have things highlighted here. These are really just placeholders, essentially. As I was writing the policy, I think the commission should certainly discuss them. And I will note, well, I'll walk through it first. I just put there that it'll be the last agenda item so the commission can complete its business before you do this. And then limiting the time period, the 3 minutes, that is also from the city of Mandan's policy. So that's what I use as the placeholder. And then limiting the total policy, again, that's from Mandan's to 30 minutes. And then D, the order of it, if you're in person, you have priority, you'll be called first. In the order the request forms were submitted, virtual attendees will be called then next in the order that public comment request forms were submitted. E, I thought this was good from the city of Mandan, is that you don't get special access to the commissions or the state's technology for presentation purposes. This isn't time to provide a PowerPoint. It's the time to provide comments. So you can use the microphone if the room's equipped, but other than that, it's really your time to provide oral comment. F, you can't yield time to another individual. G, you can suspend the time limitations if somebody's not finished with their comment and you'd like them to conclude. The chair or the acting chair can allow that to happen. And then the chair or the acting chair determines whether somebody violates the policy and forfeits their opportunity to provide comment. The thing that I didn't add to this policy that I wasn't sure which way the commission would want to go is whether you want this to be they provide their comment and that's it, or you want to have be able to have a conversation with them and ask questions more in line with like legislative testimony where they conclude and then stand for questions. Not quite sure, but we should probably address it in the policy based on what you would like to do.
I think we should have a comment period. It just makes sense. If somebody makes a comment or asks a question, because questions could come at this time too, obviously, we should be able to ask questions or have a back and forth. And on that basis, I think, and I don't know how often this is going to happen, but I think we should extend the time period to a total of 1 hour rather than 30 minutes. 30 minutes doesn't seem like much time. Then I was also thinking 3 minutes isn't much time. If we could increase that to 5 minutes, that would allow for a little bit of back and forth anyway.
Ooh, I was going to suggest 20 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Well, and mainly because if we're going to put this on our agenda as for the last order of business, and I mean, I don't know that it matters because this is a draft policy and we haven't tried this yet, so we don't know how this is going to work or how it should work.
True.
In that, so I don't have a problem with having a full hour, but it's just the context then of that, and to I think Logan's point or question about do we want these to be conversational interactions? How are we going to handle it and that? So, yeah. Other commissioners, what do you think?
This is Jared. I concur with Commissioner Goodman. My gut reaction was 3 minutes. It's pretty short. And my thought was up to 10 minutes per person. And then I also agree with the total period of time being up to 1 hour. I mean, I'm sure we've all met people who 3 minutes is just their introduction.
I guess that gives me another question. Do you want the 3, 5, whatever minutes it is, do you want that to be inclusive of the question period? Or do you want questions to be in excess of whatever they've already presented?
Yeah, and then I thought about this, and this goes to Cindy's comment. We don't know how this is going to go. I imagine if we implement this, there'll be meetings where we have nobody come and speak, but there also might be meetings where we have 5 or 6 people come and speak. I was thinking that 10-minute period would include question and answer. That's my thought.
So, Jared, would you say we could have 3 minutes to make comments and then an additional 7 minutes for questions or conversation, something like that?
I think that's reasonable.
But how did you say it? Excuse me. How did you say it, Jared? You said just change it to up to 10 minutes, inclusive of Q&A?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Because until we try it, we're really not going to know.
Yeah, that's true. And
And
probably, go ahead, Cindy, sorry.
well, no, I was just like, this could be really fun and informative, and helpful. But then again, it could also go the other way.
Well,
Go ahead, Mark.
Madam Chair and commissioners, it seems to me that preparing a policy like this, there is an inherent tension between two different interests. One interest is the interest in transparency and permitting the public to communicate directly with the commission about what the public perceives to be the issue. And the other tension is a free-for-all rant session. And how do we have a enlightened conversation versus a free-for-all? And I think that the comments policy drafted by council is thoughtful and it understands and appreciates that tension. I think that the commissioners are right. We don't know whether 20 minutes or 30 minutes or an hour is sufficient, or we're just thinking too highly of the whether there's going to be extended dialogues. Since it's a policy, it's something I think that, or a proposed policy, it's something that can be amended at any time. Maybe we start with an hour. If that seems unnecessary, we look at amending later. But I'm very comfortable with the conversation and the insight the commissioners had with what is a very, very thoughtful policy draft. I yield.
Thank you. Pam, any comments?
You're muted, Pam.
I'm very comfortable with what Logan has drafted, and I totally agree that we're really not going to know how much time we need till after it's happened a few times. So I think this is very good.
I would like to add one more thought with regard to Article 2, Part B, or Section 2, Part B, where we're talking about potential disruptive comments, or someone who just doesn't meet our time frame for speaking. I just, for the food for thought for commissioners, what other state agencies do, I don't know all of them, but several of them that I've experienced with, is they make a request to local law enforcement or the state patrol, and they'll have a law enforcement officer either sit at the meeting or walk in and out in case there is some kind of contentious event that happens. I don't know that we need to do that, but that is an option that many state entities use to just be sure that nothing gets out of hand.
Can I speak to that real quick to answer maybe or suggest
Sure.
what my from an operational standpoint? We had an individual who was harassing maybe the commission staff. And we get a lot of strange things that come to our office, individuals who complain or have concerns that they feel like they haven't been heard by other state agencies. And so then they come to us as a quote last resort. And a lot of times we don't have jurisdiction. We can't do anything. It's not a formal complaint. Maybe they're just sending us, information, what they call information. There have been instances where we've had to notify the highway patrol. And around that same time frame, we were doing a very public event. And what we did is we asked highway patrol to be present. And they were A-okay with that. And even the patrol, the officer, I think that's the language that was there, trooper who was there, said he was really learned a lot. So I think that's something that they would gladly accommodate and that we could work with them the same way that we did in the past.
Madam Chair and members, I can think of maybe one other thing that may be helpful, maybe not ensconced in a policy, but I think the two things that we'd be mindful about are that maybe at the beginning of a comment period that the presiding officer, the chair, can say that, one, it's not our policy to issue essentially verbal advisory opinions on a particular issue, but we'd encourage the public to request an advisory opinion and we can respond in that regard. Or second, that we cannot and will not comment upon a matter pending. And that may eliminate things that we don't think are appropriate to deal with in the give and take of a public meeting. Just a thought. I yield.
So this is a draft for our consideration. We've made some suggestions. So what are our next steps, Logan? And for me, do we have any idea when we can implement this?
So I'll revise it, Cindy, for the next meeting, and if you approve it then, it'd probably be the subsequent meeting after that where you could implement it once the policy's in place.
Okay.
So Cindy, after this meeting, we'll put in an NDIT request to get a form made. So that we can, and if we tell them that we need it up and running by March 1st or around there, that should be doable. I would like the commission to approve the form before it goes live, but we can certainly get the request in there.
Okay.
But as I said before, it used to take several months to get web form turnaround. We've really worked with NDIT to get that process fairly straightforward now, so we can do it much quicker. That's not nearly the operational hurdle it used to be, which is fantastic.
All right. Do you have enough input from us, Logan?
Yes.
Clear what they.
Yep, 1 hour, 10 minutes inclusive of Q&A. It's the direction I have, so that's what I will draft. And make other revisions as necessary too.
All right. Moving on. Next agenda item. Discussion of Citizens Alliance of North Dakota et al. Versus Wrigley et al. Number, whatever, 1.25 CV 23256. I'm sorry, lawyers, I'm really messing this up. Anyway, it's on our agenda as item number 9. And Rebecca or Logan?
I think I'm going to yield to Logan on this.
You got the case, you read it correctly, Cindy. So. I earlier sent the commission, again, the commission was sued in federal court by the plaintiffs in this case regarding a specific state statute. The commission and the executive director in her official capacity, we filed a motion to dismiss on January 9th in consultation with outside counsel. The Vinci law firm, but that motion was filed again on January 9th. And at this point, it's really, we're just waiting for a response to be filed. So once the response is filed, I'll make sure I distribute it to you so you can read it. But that the plaintiffs have until January 30th, this Friday, to file that response. So just a brief update on where we're at. Nothing really new there, but we will keep you informed as this case moves along.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none. We will move on to item 10. Oh, give me a minute here. I got to find my script. The next item on the agenda are complaint numbers. 23-011, 013, 014, 24-008, 013, 015, 031, 032, 035, 25-004, 021, 022, 038, 039, 040, 047, 048, 049, 050, 051, 052, 053, 054, 055, 056, 057, 058, 059, 060, 061, 062, and 068. And I believe we also added 25-083 and 25-084. Here and after referred to as the complaints. These items must be discussed in an executive session. Legal authority for closing this portion of the meeting is North Dakota Century Code sections 54-66-12 subsection 1, 54-66-12 section 3, and 44-04-19.2 subsection 1. The topic or purpose of this executive session is discussion on the complaints. Information regarding the content and parties to an Ethics Commission complaint is confidential. As a complaint must be discussed in executive session, no motion is needed to enter into executive session. The executive session will be recorded, and all members of the governing body are reminded to limit their discussions during the executive session to the announced topic. Any collective decision, collective commitment, or other final action by the governing body must occur after it reconvenes in an open meeting. The prohibition on taking final action during the executive session does not apply to providing guidance or instructions to our attorney. We will now ask members of the public who are attending the meeting to leave the meeting. We anticipate adjourning the executive session and reconvening the open portion of this meeting in an approximately, Logan or Rebecca,
12:15.
at approximately 12:15. The minutes will show that the executive session began at approximately 11:35 a.m. and was attended by all the commissioners and our staff, Rebecca Binstock, Logan Carpenter, and Addie Moose. You will
Cindy,
know. Oh, okay.
I'll just add, I think you missed 25-043. There was a lot there, but want to catch that, but that's also on the agenda.
Oh, I did. Good catch. Thank you.
Welcome.
All right. So commissioners, we'll leave this and go into exec session, and the link should come up, or you should have it on your calendar. The minutes will show that the executive session was adjourned at approximately 12:16 p.m. The public has been invited to return to the regular meeting. We are now back in open session.
Is now the appropriate time for a motion, Madam Chair?
Yes.
Madam Chair, I move to stay complaint number 23-014.
Ron, you're muted.
I will second.
We have a motion on the floor. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Hubricks,
Aye.
Commissioner Sharp,
Aye.
Commissioner Western,
Aye.
Vice Chair Goodman,
Aye.
and Chair Lindquist.
Aye. Other motions?
I move to direct Executive Director Binstock to summarily dismiss complaint number 25-083 for lack of personal jurisdiction.
I'd second that.
We have a motion and a second. Addie, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Hubricks,
Aye.
Commissioner Sharp,
Aye.
Commissioner Western,
Aye.
Vice Chair Goodman,
Aye.
and Chair Lindquist.
Aye. And last motion or another motion?
Yes. I move that we summarily dismiss complaint number 25-084.
I second that motion.
And it was for lack of personal jurisdiction. Correct.
Yes.
Thank you. Addie, please read the roll.
Commissioner Huber,
Aye.
Commissioner Sherr,
Aye.
Commissioner Western,
Aye.
Vice Chair Goodman,
Aye.
and Chair sorry, and Chair
Aye.
Lindquist.
Motion carries. Thank you. For the public who have rejoined us, in reading, when we went into executive session, I actually left out some complaints, and so we are going to be entering another executive session. So the next item on the agenda is our complaint numbers 25-043, 25-044, 25-045, and 25-046, hereinafter referred to as the complaints. These items must be discussed in an executive session. The legal authority for closing this portion of the meeting is North Dakota Century Code sections 54-66-12, subsection 1, 54-66-12, subsection 3, and 44-04-19.2, subsection 1. The topic or purpose of this executive session is discussion of the complaints. Information regarding the content and parties to an Ethics Commission complaint is confidential. As a complaint must be discussed in executive session, no motion is needed to enter executive session. The executive session will be recorded, and all members of the governing body are reminded to limit their discussion during the executive session to the announced topic. Any collective decision, collective commitment, or other final action by the governing body must occur after it reconvenes in an open meeting. The prohibition of taking final action during the executive session does not apply to providing guidance or instructions to our attorney. We'll now ask members of the public who are attending the meeting to leave the meeting. We anticipate adjourning the executive session and reconvening the open portion of the meeting at approximately 12:40?
12:35, Cindy.
12:35. The minutes will show that the executive session began at approximately 12:24 p.m. and was attended by all 5 North Dakota Ethics Commissioners, staff, Binstock, Carpenter, and Addie Moose, as noted. We will go back into exec session and we will return at 12:35. Do we need to wait till 12:35?
No, you can go ahead.
Oh, all right. The minutes will show that the executive session was adjourned at approximately 12:31 p.m. The public has been invited to return to the meeting. We are now back in open session. I will entertain any motions.
This is Commissioner Goodman. I move that we direct Executive Director Binstock to summarily dismiss complaints 25-043, 044, 045, and 046 for lack of personal jurisdiction.
Madam Chair and members, I second.
We have a motion. Addie, please read the roll.
Commissioner Huber,
Aye.
Commissioner Western,
Aye.
Commissioner Sharp,
Aye.
Vice Chair Goodman,
Aye.
and Chair Lindquist.
Aye. Motion carries. All right, back to the agenda. We are now on item 11, review of the 2026 schedule and work plan.
Cindy, do you want me to go through this or do you want to?
Would you please?
So commissioners, as we discussed, as you all discussed at the December meeting, there are a regular meeting set for each month. Some of those we did note as tentative, I believe in June or July. But you will see on attachment 24, what the schedule is for regular meetings, the time is on all of those, and then you have your location. In February, we will be meeting in Bismarck. There was a discussion of having the April meeting in Fargo. We will be communicating with NDSU to, I have not done that yet, but I will go ahead and do that. We will communicate with NDSU to hold that there. There is a question mark on June for potentially a Minot location or something on the western side. And then I have communicated with the UND Law School, and they would like to have us back in Grand Forks in September. We are touching base on those dates. When I talked to Beth, she wasn't sure if that date was going to work, and she was checking calendars and is going to get back to me. So I will follow up on that to confirm that date. But you'll see that the June is tentative, potentially July if we may not need July, but we do have certain topics or activities that have to happen. And if you walk through those, you will see what we have for additional special meeting topics that need to be discussed. I want to draw your attention specifically to July and August. Our annual report is due August 31st or the end of August. So we likely will need a special meeting to approve that final report. I anticipate this will be a lot less work than it was this last year because it will only cover 1 year. It will not cover the entire existence of the commission, which is what we did in our first annual report. And then in June, the end of June is when our budget submission is done. In other words, we have to have that submitted to the governor's office in July. We may be able to do that sooner. I just have it in July as the last option. Depending on how things work out, we might be able to have that done sooner. And as we get closer to legislative session, pre-filed bills typically are due the first week of December. So sometime in November, we will have to finalize any pre-filed bills that the commission may want to consider. We'll have to consider the balance between us filing them or having a legislator introduce them on our behalf, et cetera. But something to consider. You'll also find key activities throughout the year, things that this has just historically been done at these times, or there are things that we already have scheduled that you can see. There is a reference to our workforce analysis review. That's something the commission talked about last September. I have been working on that. I met with somebody earlier this month, and we need to talk more about that in light of the strategic plan review that we will do in February. So if you have any questions, comments, additions, more than welcome to do those. We will work on finalizing dates for Grand Forks and then make sure that works, and then tentatively locations in Fargo and Minot.
Maybe just commissioners, just to make sure you understand. So we have our dates set for our meetings, and when we have a location like Bismarck, Fargo, Minot, Grand Forks, just have the understanding that most likely, well, not most likely, those will be in person sessions. So just FYI. And our February meeting and agenda is going to be quite full, and we're trying to set that up like topic wise. We'll have our regular meeting, but then we're going to do a specific planning session during February, and we are also planning that to be both the 18th and 19th, if I've got the dates correct. So 2 days, so hopefully you've got your calendars marked. Any questions? Anything else, Rebecca, relative to that, to the work plan and?
Nothing from here.
All right. Any further business? Hearing none. Wow, we can adjourn the meeting of the North Dakota Ethics Commission at about 12:40 p.m. It was a good meeting. Thank you all so much. I'm happy my
Thanks.
voice held up. Take care.
Bye-bye.